Welcome to Life Stories. Imagine trusting someone completely, believing they are the answer to your prayers, only to find out that the person you love has been hiding a dangerous secret. What if the very one you've opened your heart to, the one who promised to care for your child, was the one threatening everything you hold dear? This is the story of a father who was blind to the truth, a daughter who tried to warn him, and a woman who wore a mask so perfectly that even the most trained eye couldn't see through it. What happens when trust is shattered and a parent has to confront the unimaginable? Stay with us as we uncover the chilling truth, one piece at a time, and find out if love can survive the ultimate betrayal. Let's begin. James sat at the kitchen table, a cup of lukewarm coffee in his hand, his mind far away from the mundane task of breakfast. The morning sunlight filtered through the large windows that overlooked their garden, casting a soft glow on the polished countertops. At 39, he had it all: success, wealth, a beautiful home, and a daughter who was his world. But today, something felt off, like a crack in the perfection he had carefully constructed over the years. His gaze drifted over to Ellie, his 6-year-old daughter, sitting at the table, pushing her cereal around absent-mindedly. She had been acting different lately, disturbed, distant. Ever since Ashley had moved in 3 weeks ago, Ellie's once bright eyes seemed dimmed by a quiet fear James couldn't place. He tried to brush it off. After all, adjusting to a new stepmother couldn't be easy. But something in Ellie's demeanor today gnawed at him. She wasn't just adjusting. She was scared. And James had learned long ago to trust his instincts in business, but now, in his own home, he felt helpless. "Not hungry, sweetheart?" James asked, his voice soft, trying to make the question sound casual. Ellie didn't respond immediately. She only flicked a quick glance up at him before returning her focus to her untouched bowl, the spoon resting still in her small hands. "I'm fine, Daddy," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, smaller than usual. The silence between them stretched long. James could feel the distance growing, not just between him and his daughter, but between him and the life he had carefully constructed. Everything had seemed perfect when he'd met Ashley, a woman with a degree in education, a professional career, and an apparent understanding of children. She was everything James thought Ellie needed, a mother figure who could provide the love and stability he couldn't give her alone. Or so he thought. A shadow passed through the doorway. It was Ashley, stepping into the kitchen like she always did, polished, graceful, composed. She walked towards him with a smile that seemed genuine, but to James, something about it felt rehearsed. "Is everything all right down here?" Ashley's voice had that soothing tone, the one she used when she was trying to calm a situation. James looked at her for a moment, still trying to reconcile what Ellie had been trying to tell him, her nervousness, her subtle rejection of Ashley's touch, the way she avoided her stepmother's gaze. "I think Ellie might be feeling a bit unsettled," James said, his words unsure. He hadn't wanted to admit it, but he could no longer ignore it. Ashley moved behind him and placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch light, reassuring. "She's just adjusting. It's normal, James. Kids don't handle change well, especially when it comes to new family dynamics. We've talked about this." Her calmness made him feel weak. She was right, of course. Kids didn't handle change well, but the words felt hollow now, as if spoken more to reassure him than to address Ellie's real pain. Ellie's chair scraped against the floor, and she bolted from the table, her small feet pounding against the hardwood as she ran up the stairs without a word. Her reaction was so sudden, so sharp, it felt like a slap. James stood frozen, the glass of juice still in his hand, unsure of what had just happened. Ashley, unfazed, watched as James remained sitting, the same expression on her face as always, composed, understanding. "It's just the adjustment," she repeated, but her tone was colder now, more professional. "Let her have some space. You can talk to her later. Kids need time, James." James nodded, but something in his chest clenched. He didn't want to believe it. He didn't want to believe that his daughter, his sweet, intuitive little girl, was keeping secrets. That the child who had always come to him with her little fears and worries was now shutting him out. 3 days passed, and Ellie continued to avoid him. She spent more time in her room, and when she did come downstairs, she barely spoke, her bright green eyes shadowed by an invisible burden. James couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Then, one afternoon, as James was working from home, he heard the hesitant sound of Ellie's footsteps in the hallway. It was quieter than usual, no skipping, no singing, just the soft patter of small feet. She appeared at the door to his office, clutching her stuffed elephant tightly to her chest. "Daddy!" Her voice trembled, pulling at his heartstrings. He immediately stood, opening his arms to her. "Come here, sweetheart," he said softly, feeling a pang of worry, his protective instincts kicking in. Ellie approached him cautiously, almost as if she were afraid to be seen. She climbed onto his lap, her small frame so tense it was like she was made of stone. James stroked her hair gently, trying to soothe her. But before he could ask what was wrong, Ellie whispered something that made his blood run cold. "Promise you won't get mad, Daddy?" she asked, her voice small, vulnerable. "I promise," James whispered back, his heart racing. "Miss Ashley, she tried to push me into the pool yesterday," Ellie blurted out in a rush, her words tumbling over each other. "She grabbed my arm really tight and tried to push me to the deep end, but Lauren came around and she let go really fast and pretended we were playing." James froze. The world around him felt like it was crashing down. Ellie's eyes, usually so full of life, now held a fear that he couldn't ignore. "Are you sure, sweetheart?" James asked, his voice shaking despite himself. Ellie nodded, her small face angry and hurt. "She said I should learn to swim better," she whispered, her voice filled with a quiet fury. "But it wasn't like playing, Daddy. It was mean. It scared me." James held her tightly, his mind racing. Could it be true? Could Ashley, the woman he had trusted, really be capable of this? But then Ellie revealed something else. "She told me not to tell you, Daddy. She said I shouldn't tell anyone because no one would believe me. But I'm telling you because I'm scared." James felt something cold settle in his chest. Ellie had always been truthful with him. But this was something darker than he could have ever imagined. His thoughts raced. The security cameras. The house. What if this wasn't an isolated incident? What if Ashley had been hiding something much worse? Why do we sometimes refuse to see what's right in front of us? Even when our children try to warn us, can we ever truly trust those closest to us? Or are we blind to the danger they pose? As James made a promise to Ellie that he would never let anything hurt her again, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything he thought he knew about Ashley was built on lies. He had to find the truth before it was too late. The next steps would require courage. A father's worst nightmare was just beginning, and Ellie had given him the greatest gift she could. She had shown him the truth, and now he had to face it. Would he be able to protect her in time? As the sun set, casting long shadows over the house, James knew one thing for certain. He could never trust Ashley again. But the question remained, could he uncover the truth before she tore their world apart? James stood frozen in the doorway of his daughter's room, the weight of what Ellie had just told him still heavy on his chest. His mind was spinning, but one thought kept echoing in his head. How had he missed this? How had he been so blind to the subtle signs, the quiet pleas his daughter had been making without him even realizing it? He was a successful businessman, sharp, quick to read people, to catch the faintest hint of a lie, yet here he was, caught in the web of a woman he had let into his life and his daughter's world. The house felt too quiet now. The comfortable hum of life he had come to expect had been replaced by a tense stillness. He could hear Ellie in her room, shuffling around, the soft sound of her footsteps a reminder of how vulnerable she was. James had failed her. He'd failed to see the truth, even when it was staring him in the face. He paced the hall, trying to collect himself, trying to think. There had to be a way to protect her. There had to be something he could do. The answer had to be right in front of him. But how? He had to confront Ashley. He had to find out what kind of person she truly was, what kind of danger she posed to Ellie, and stop her before it was too late. But something inside him was hesitant. The woman he was about to confront wasn't just his fiancée. She was someone he had trusted, someone who had shown him love. She had carefully woven herself into his life, becoming the perfect partner, the perfect stepmother. Was he wrong all along? Had he been blind to the signs of the monster hiding behind her smile? His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Lauren. She looked at him with concern in her eyes, her face soft, but there was a tension in the way she stood at the door. James hadn't expected her to show up today. She was supposed to be with Ellie this afternoon, but there was something different about Lauren's demeanor. Her unease was palpable. "James," she said quietly, her voice tentative but firm. "I'm really sorry, but there's something I need to tell you. It's about Ashley." James felt his stomach twist. He stepped back to let her in, his mind racing with possibilities. Lauren took a breath, glancing toward Ellie's room before meeting his eyes. "I've been here with Ellie for a few days now, and I've noticed things. Things I didn't want to believe at first." She hesitated, looking down at her hands before continuing. "I didn't think it was my place, but I can't ignore it anymore. I think Ashley is hurting Ellie in ways that go beyond what she's told you." James felt a chill run through him. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice tight, though his heart was pounding in his chest. Lauren lowered her voice even more, as if afraid of being overheard. "Yesterday, when I was with Ellie in the garden, she told me something. Something that made my heart break. She said Ashley had been threatening her, telling her she'd never be good enough. She said Ashley made her feel like she didn't belong here. And when she asked Ashley about something, Ashley..." Lauren's voice faltered for a moment. "Ashley called her stupid. And worse, James, she said Ellie was too much like her mother. And that's when I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore." James's head swam. His thoughts were fractured, jumbled. He couldn't process the enormity of what Lauren was saying. Was this the woman he had been so eager to marry? The one who had seemed so perfect? But now the signs were undeniable. The clues finally falling into place. He could see the pieces of the puzzle clearly now, and they didn't fit the picture he had imagined. Ellie's silence, her withdrawal, her subtle warnings. It had all been there, hidden beneath the surface, and he had ignored it. The loving fiancé he had trusted, who had seemed so perfect on the surface, was a predator who had learned to manipulate everyone around her, including him. Lauren's voice cut through his thoughts. "James, I think Ashley is deliberately isolating Ellie, trying to break her down. I've seen the bruises, and I've heard her when she didn't think anyone was listening. She's been using Ellie to get to you, to make you doubt yourself, make you doubt your instincts. I believe she's trying to push Ellie out of the picture entirely. You need to know that she's capable of anything." The room seemed to close in around James. His throat went dry as his mind replayed the moments he had spent with Ashley, her gentle touch, her caring words. But it was all a lie, wasn't it? He hadn't seen the real Ashley. He had been too blinded by his need for stability, for a new family. His obsession with protecting Ellie from the pain of losing her mother had made him blind to the real threat in his own home. Lauren's words lingered in the air like a heavy fog. He couldn't ignore them anymore. But the weight of it all felt unbearable. He had trusted Ashley more than he trusted his own instincts, and now his daughter was paying the price. "I have to do something," James whispered, the conviction slowly forming in his chest. "I have to protect her." Lauren gave him a gentle nod, her eyes full of sympathy. "I know, but you have to be careful. Ashley is dangerous. If she senses you're onto her, she'll escalate. You can't let her manipulate you. She's too clever." James's thoughts were a whirlwind, but one thing was clear now. Ashley had to be exposed. He couldn't let her stay in the house any longer. He needed proof, something concrete that would silence any doubt. The cameras, the recordings. The truth was already staring him in the face, and now he had to act on it. But the question was, how? How could he confront her without tipping her off? How could he protect Ellie from the woman who had become a stranger in his life? Do you think James should confront Ashley directly, or should he gather more evidence before making a move? What would you do if you were in his position? The tension in the house was palpable. as James walked to the living room, his resolve hardening with each step. The next few days would be crucial. He couldn't afford to make a mistake now. But with Ashley's manipulative web closing in, would he have enough time to stop her before she destroyed everything? He was done playing by Ashley's rules. It was time to take back control. The night was unnaturally still. James had spent hours reviewing the footage again, his eyes bloodshot, his body tense with a mixture of anger, fear, and guilt. The quiet of the house seemed suffocating now, every creak of the floorboards beneath his feet echoing in his mind. Ellie had fallen asleep in her room, her small body curled up under the blanket like a fragile bird, unaware of the storm about to hit. James could barely sleep, his thoughts running wild. What had he missed? How could he have been so blind? But then the answer came, clear and undeniable. He couldn't let Ashley continue to manipulate them, continue to poison a little bit of happiness he had left. She was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he had been too eager to see the sheep. The time had come. He couldn't wait any longer. He had to confront Ashley, not just for his sake, but for Ellie's. As he walked to the kitchen, his steps were heavy, as if the weight of everything he had failed to see in the past few months was now catching up with him. He could hear Ashley's voice in the next room, calm and sweet, as if she hadn't just tried to break his family apart. It sickened him. Every part of him screamed to burst in, to yell at her, to demand answers. But he had to remain controlled. He had to outsmart her, make sure she didn't realize he was onto her, until it was too late. Ashley was sitting at the kitchen counter, sipping a glass of wine, her posture poised, her smile like a mask. When she saw him enter, she looked up, her eyes lighting up with that practiced warmth. "James," she said, her voice sweet, a tone that had always made him feel like everything was fine. "How was your day? Did you manage to sort out all that business stuff?" He forced a smile, trying to keep his emotions in check, but inside his heart was racing. "It was fine," he said quietly, then paused, staring at her as if seeing her for the first time. The perfect stepmother, the perfect fiancée, the woman who had woven herself into his life so seamlessly. And now he knew. The woman he had trusted was dangerous. The woman he thought would love and protect his daughter was capable of unspeakable cruelty. Ashley raised an eyebrow, noticing his long silence. "Is something wrong?" she asked, her voice laced with mock concern. James took a deep breath. He had to do this. For Ellie. "Ashley," he said, his voice low but steady, "I know what you've been doing." The look in Ashley's eyes flickered just for a second, but it was enough. For the briefest moment, her mask cracked, and James saw the coldness underneath. She wasn't as untouchable as she had led him to believe. "What are you talking about?" she asked, the sweetness now replaced with something darker. "I don't know what you think you know, James, but I—" "Don't lie to me," he interrupted, his anger rising now. "I've seen the footage. I know what you've been doing to Ellie." Ashley stood up slowly, her face hardening, but her voice still controlled. "What footage?" she asked, her smile returning, but it was brittle now, like glass about to shatter. "You think you've got me? You think a few grainy recordings will change anything?" James stepped forward, every step bringing him closer to the truth, to the confrontation that had been building for weeks. "I know everything, Ashley," he said, his voice shaking with the force of his emotions. "The bruises, the threats, the manipulation. I saw you drag Ellie to the pool. I saw how you've been isolating her, how you've been tearing her down to build yourself up." Ashley's smile faltered for a moment, then she laughed, a laugh that was cold, hollow, and unsettling. "You think she matters? That little brat is nothing. She's in the way. You're mine, James. You've always been mine. You think you can just throw me away because of her? She's just a little girl. What do you think I'm supposed to do? I've been patient. I've played the part. I'm the perfect mother, the perfect fiancée. I did everything you wanted. But she doesn't get it, does she? She doesn't understand that I am the one who belongs here." The words hit James like a slap. The woman he had thought he knew was gone. The facade had been shattered, and the truth, ugly and violent, was standing before him. "You're sick," James whispered, the weight of it sinking in. You've been abusing her, and you think I won't believe my own daughter? My Ellie?" Ashley's face twisted into a snarl. "She's a liar. She's a little girl with no sense of reality. And you're too weak to see it. You were too busy living in your little dream world to notice. She's trying to turn you against me, James. She's your problem now. You'll regret this." James felt a wave of rage, so intense he almost couldn't control it. But in that moment, a part of him knew that this wasn't about his feelings or even Ashley anymore. It was about Ellie. His daughter, his flesh and blood, was the one who had been fighting, alone, against the woman who had tried to replace her mother. Ellie had been trying to save them both. "Get out," James said, his voice trembling with fury. "Leave, now." Ashley stepped toward him as if to challenge him, but he wasn't afraid anymore. He had the truth on his side. He had his daughter's voice, and he would not let her down again. "I'll make sure you regret this, James," Ashley hissed, before turning and storming out of the kitchen, her heels clicking loudly against the floor. James stood there for a moment, his heart racing, his breath coming in shallow gasps. Then, with a determined stride, he made his way up the stairs to Ellie's room. She was still sleeping, her small body curled up in a tight ball under the covers. He knelt beside her bed, brushing the hair from her face, his heart swelling with a mixture of love and guilt. "Ellie," he whispered softly, careful not to wake her too suddenly. "You were right. I'm sorry I didn't listen sooner. I'll always believe you from now on." Ellie's eyes fluttered open, and for a moment she looked confused. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face, a soft, weary smile, as if she had been waiting for him to say those words for far too long. "I knew you would, Daddy," she whispered. "I knew you'd protect me." And in that moment, James realized that it wasn't just about protecting Ellie anymore. It was about rebuilding everything: trust, love, and the life they both deserved. The nightmare with Ashley was over, but the healing had just begun. What do you think about James's final decision to confront Ashley? How do you feel about the way he protected his daughter? If you enjoyed this story, please comment 100 to show your support. So where are you watching from? To show your supply. Where are you watching from? In the comments below. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. Thank you for watching Life Stories.